cannot believe I'm about to tell you all my business like this. I didn't think it was going to go this far. All right, y'all, this is James from the I'm Free Project. Subscribe, share, and like this video. And thank you to all the new subscribers and joining in on the conversation, because this conversation here is going to be something where I am going to open up just a little bit more about my personal life and my personal testimony. And I can't believe that I'm going to go here, but unlike the previous videos I've done before with the I'm Free Project lesson series, where those are more so teaching things, this one I'm going to go into talking about something that I experienced personally myself, and then more than likely, and from the stories that I've heard before, other people have experienced as well. So I wanted to talk about this because I think it's rather important, because there are a lot of men within the body of Christ, a lot of men and a lot of women within the body of Christ in this, and they have had this question in terms of moving forward. So this video may not be for most of my viewers, but if you have a heart to help those who may be struggling with homosexuality, or if you are struggling yourself and you're in that transition phase of coming out of homosexuality, and you just lost and you don't know who to talk to, how to present your concerns, and you don't have anyone within your church you don't even trust. So this is for you, because this is a huge component in moving forward. We can't act like we don't need to talk about it, because we do. I mean, children aren't brought here by a stork. They're not brought here by men and women looking at each other. Men and women have to get physical and have sex in order for babies to be created, for us to do as God told us to do, to be fruitful and multiply. So with that being said, let me get right into this messy stuff. Anyway, but it's real. It's real life. This is real talk. And this real talk is going to involve my own personal, quote unquote, struggle with moving forward, and knowing that God has done a miraculous thing, but you have to deal with those everyday human practical things as well. So anyway, without further ado, now I will say that a lot of times I get comments, and the people that I've spoken with over the years who have dealt with homosexuality, dealt with same-sex attractions, who are on that transition coming out, and they have that question about marriage and physical relationships with the opposite sex, and the sense that they have not had those types of relationships either ever, or they haven't done it in a long time since they have transitioned, or they have come out of that phase of where they did this to cover up, and maybe then they had sex with a girl, and then now they live exclusively homosexual, and then now that they're on that path out of that lifestyle, coming from all of that and now coming back to the original intent as a man or as a man or as a woman. So now, how do we address those who have struggled with homosexuality, who have struggled with gender identity, who have struggled with feeling less than as a man or as a woman, and so now they are in an opposite sex relationship, and they don't know how to move forward. They don't know how to get into that place of enacting romance or enacting the physical side of the opposite sex relationship. So now here's my testimony with that, and I'm going to keep it as real as I can and try to keep it clean. But again, this is real life. I can't cover this up. It is a part of my growing as a man of God, as a man, as a husband. So here it is. Anyway, so when my wife and I were first married, and not having sex with a woman in a long time, I didn't necessarily think about it, but I did once I was married, and I had a little concern. But a part of the thing for me was, I know that while my wife and I were dating, I would get excited, being around her and touching her hand and so forth. And, my heart would race. And as a man, things are starting to happen. And again, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just being a real believer in the things that believers talk about, because they're not going to talk about this in church. They're not. You're not going to get this in church. That's just the way it is. And so I'm just going to put it out there for those who really need that help and they don't have anybody to talk to about it. So anyway, here it is. So having to deal with that and having to question myself as to whether or not there was going to be I was going to be able to, quote unquote, perform once we were married. That was real. That was really, really real, because I had a lot of trepidation in going forward in that area. And I thought about it, and it had a little fear, had a little mixed emotions about it. And I knew that I was physically attracted, but would I be able to sustain during the time and have my mind not to wonder or walk into the bedroom with a lot of fear and a lot of mixed emotions, and the enemy coming into my head telling me that you can't do this, or you're not attracted to that, you don't like this and you don't like that. So typically people who deal with same-sex attraction and who have come out of homosexuality, they bring all that to the bedroom. They bring a lot of that to the bedroom. And that within itself causes a lot of people who have dealt with same-sex attractions to not even want to move forward in getting married or pursue opposite sex relationships, because the easier thing is what they've done before, is to be with someone of the same gender. And so that became much easier, and you know how to pursue that. So with that being said, now that they're on the opposite side of that and God has brought them out, how do I move forward? How do I handle this? How do I approach the physical act with my wife or with my husband and not be scared and not, just clam up and not be able to toe the line, I guess, or finish the race, I guess you can say. Again, I'm treading this. I'm treading this very lightly here and trying to keep it clean and keep it, real Christian-like. But at the same time, I understand we are human, we are people, and I have 2 sons, and my sons were not birthed, wishing, hoping, and praying. No, I had to do something to get them here. So with that being said, I thought about, the night that we were married, and I was excited. I was really excited because I knew that, here it is, here's the time, we're about to do this. And I remember the wedding day. We had a beautiful day, and granted, it was a long day. It was a beautiful, beautiful time with family and friends and the excitement of it all. It was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And so when all of that was over, of course, it was time for us to consummate the marriage. It's time for us to be husband and wife and to express our love for one another and make this thing real. So, but what happened was we go to our hotel and we, get all checked in and get our stuff together, and I'm there in the bed, and it's been a long day, so you have to clean up and take a shower. It was the summer. Our wedding was in the summertime, so we were both pretty tired from all the heat and just you're sweating and all that kind of stuff. So, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm telling all this. Anyway, so as we were preparing to consummate our marriage, a lot was going through my head. A lot was really going through my head. And I literally had to tell myself, James, relax. James, you can do this. James, pat myself on the shoulder or on the back and say, boy, you got this. You can do this. You're the man. You bring your A game with this. So, but yeah, so oh gosh. But yeah, so we went into the consummation of the marriage, and praise God, everything worked out well. Everything went great, and we were excited. We had a really good time. I loved it, and I said to myself, oh my God, I cannot believe I've been missing this all this time. You trying to tell me I was dealing with that foolishness over there with men when God has this for me? My gosh, this is off the chain. So you talk about a feeling. I'm like, oh my goodness, that was off the charts right there. Kudos to you, God, because you made my body to fit with my wife perfectly, and you set us all, and you built us in the way that accommodated one another in a perfect sense that when it's on and popping. So kudos to you, Lord. Anyway, but yeah, so when we continued, of course, as the days went on, and we were being husband and wife and enjoying each other physically, and things were great. But then in my mind, I started to have questions about whether or not this was actually the right thing. Because what will happen is that Satan will come to your heart and will come to your mind and start messing with your head, saying that you don't really like women, you don't like that, you don't like her touch. Mind you, because I hadn't touched a woman in so long, it was really new territory for me. It was something that it was like, wow. And, in a sense, like, that's different, that feels different. And so I had to process all that in my mind. And with that being said, it started to cause within me a questioning as to whether or not I really liked the physical touch or the women's bodies. And as you know, anyone who has come from homosexuality, as a man, you are used to a man's touch or the texture of a man's skin and all of that. And a woman's body and a man's body are two different things. They feel different and they smell different. And so there are things that you have to grapple with in going into a relationship with a woman. And so you have to get to a place of understanding that she is not going to feel like he felt. And I had to deal with that. And it was really real. And it was so real to the point where it affected our lovemaking. And I'm being very real right here. I'm being very open and honest. It did affect our lovemaking after about 2 months in. Yeah, I would say about I say about 4 months in. Yeah, about 4 months in, it started to affect our lovemaking in the sense that, I wasn't used to her touch. I felt like the smell of her body as a woman, her flesh, and the way that she touched me and things, all of that. You have to really deal with all of that. And so I dealt with all of that, and it was much. And so when the time came for us to make love, there were many times that I couldn't perform. And with those times, I blamed her, and that wasn't good. That put a strain on our relationship, made her feel this way and made her feel some kind of way as a woman, and made her feel rejected and made me feel angry and made me feel as though I made a mistake. And that wasn't the case, because I knew that what had happened was that God had brought us together, but I didn't understand why I didn't physically feel any type of attraction for that moment there, and why I could not perform as a man, as her husband, and desire her the way that I desired her prior to us being married. So what happened was I was telling a friend of mine about it, and I went to a men's retreat, and this is the God's honest truth. I went to a men's retreat, and when I came back from before I left for the men's retreat, I prayed to God. I said, God, I know that you brought my wife and I together for a reason. I know that you brought my wife and I together for a purpose. I know that she is called to me and I am called to her. And that you created sex between a husband and a wife for a purpose and for them to grow and to become one together. And that you designed this, my body for her, her body is for me. And that we are perfectly designed so that we are joined and knitted together as one. And I asked literally God to be with me in the bedroom, in meaning that God, teach me how to appreciate my wife's touch. Teach me how to appreciate the smell of my wife's body. Teach me how to appreciate the texture of my wife's body, the shape of my wife's body, everything concerning her as a woman. Teach me to appreciate it in those times of intimacy. And I tell you, and this is real, God, honest truth, because it was really putting a strain on our lovemaking. It was really putting a strain on our relationship. And I would go to work mad. She would be frustrated and all of that. And it just wasn't pretty. About that 5th month, 6th month, it just wasn't pretty. And I was like, no, this is from Satan. This is from the devil. The devil is trying to get me to doubt that I am truly in the will of God as a man, and that I was meant to do that nasty stuff, and I wasn't built to do this. No, God intended me to be with a woman. There's nothing about my body that was meant for a man. Now, in perversion, I can do things with a man, but that's not what God intended. God intended for my body to be with her body, and that's the way I was designed. And so I rejected those lies of the devil, and I started praying to God. God, be with me. God, strengthen me. God, show me how, and give me a new appreciation for this body and this design right here that you made for me as a man. And I tell you, when I tell you God showed up and showed out, there has not been, and this has been 5 or 6 years later, 5 years later, there has not been one incident of me not being able to do what I'm physically called to do when it comes to being intimate with my wife. And I don't mean to say that to be nasty, crude, or rude as a believer, but what I am just doing is keeping it real, because this is a real issue that a lot of men deal with when they come out of that lifestyle, or women who are now having to be with a man. And this is something new to them. This is real life, because you've got to get to the side to where you learn how to appreciate the body of a woman. And the woman has to get to the place who was previously a lesbian. Now she's got to learn how to appreciate the body of a man, and how all that works together. And that is real talk. And so again, I'm not trying to be crude or rude, but I'm telling you, up until this day, I have not had an issue with being the man that I need to be in the bedroom. And that's just real talk. And it's like, God, you did it. I know that me praying and really sincerely asking God to help me in that area, He changed my emotions. He changed my affections. He changed how I looked at my wife, and He changed how I desire for her. He changed how I touch for her, appreciation of her touch to me, and all of those things. So I say that to say all this, is that I know there are some young men out there, there's some women out there who are in that place of where they are making that transition, and they want to start dating, they want to start going out, they want to start relating to the opposite sex. And then if that leads to marriage, then they have that thing where they want to go forward in marriage, but that may scare them. So I'm here to tell you that God is able to restore your affections towards the opposite sex and give you a strong desire to be with your mate. That's God. That's nothing but God. But you have to pray sincerely unto Him and ask Him to restore those things unto you. I had to do it, and I'm telling you, God did exceedingly abundantly above all I could ask or think. I'm telling you on the real. It's a good thing. And so I'm glad of that. I am glad of that. That is nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be ashamed of, that when you are, as a man, you're in the bedroom with your wife and you're ready to go. There is nothing wrong with that. That is real talk. That is life. That's how babies get here. You can't get here, you and your wife sitting on the edge of the bed, hoping, wishing, praying, and thinking that she's gonna get pregnant, but you don't do anything. You gotta do something. So, but yeah, so that's my story with that. And I encourage all believers who have dealt with homosexuality, same-sex attractions, lesbianism, and you are on that place and you're on that side and you're considering, God, I want to do this, but I'm scared. God, I want to move forward, but I don't know what to do. God, I want to be with my wife, or God, I want to be my husband, but you just have that fear. I want a husband or I want a wife, but you're just scared of the opposite sex. You are just afraid because maybe she see you as being too effeminate. Maybe he may see you as being a little bit too hard. And so you're trying to grapple with all that, and you're trying to manage all that in your mind, and you just have to stop and say, God, I know what I've dealt with. I know how my actions are. I know how my mannerisms are. But God, number one, help me to manage my mannerisms if it's something that does not attract the opposite sex. And then number two, then help me, Lord, when I am with the opposite sex, that when I am married, or if you led me to be married, that I can be intimate with them on the level that you have designed me to be intimate with the opposite sex. And that's real talk, and God will do it. I'm telling you, God will do it. Now, it may take some a little longer than others, but God will do it. Don't let Satan get into your mind and your heart and tell you that this is not for you. You were not meant for that. So you will always be gay. You'll always be a lesbian, and you don't have attraction to the opposite sex. Yeah, you do. We suppress it so long, we suppress it so hard, and we buy into the lies of the enemy that it becomes true. And so then you act out that what you believe in. And so therefore, you start to believe that this is how and what you were created to be. But I'm here to tell you that God will restore you to your rightful place and intent as a man and as a woman when you put your trust in him and you give your affections over to God. And so anyway, all right, y'all, this is James from the I'm Free Project. I hope that little nugget blessed somebody. I hope that me opening up that little section of my life be a blessing to someone, that they're able to see this video and be encouraged to move forward and not let Satan hold you back in your mind, and let God free you in your heart, body, and soul. All right, this is James from the I'm Free Project. Subscribe, like, and share. And remember, Jesus Christ is Lord. Peace.